All right, Genesis 14, let's call this one money. Why? Because the Bible gives us plenty of insight on how our attitude towards the poor should be generous and caring, but it also gives us insight into how God's people who have money and resources can give us wisdom as to how we approach money as well. And we've already seen that in Abram's attitude in chapter 13 towards money and family, when he uses his money to create peace in the family, taking his property, giving his nephew Lot first choice over the property so they can have peace among them. Now we're going to see how Abram approaches money when he's dealing with other powerful men. In chapter 14, he's going to come across a man by the name of Melchizedek, king of Salem, and another man, king of Sodom. And they're both going to come at him after he's had a great victory. And the first thing to notice is it's important to be careful when you're on an emotional high, because people are going to come at you a lot of times when you're at your best. You've heard it like this: that phone gets real quiet when you're broke, but when you got money, it can be hard to keep people away. And so much the same way, Abraham's a man who already has means, and at a high point, he's having other powerful men come at him, but he's making important distinctions because he's not going to do a deal with both of them. See, Melchizedek, the king of Salem, a relatively trustworthy man, comes at him with simple hospitality, and he accepts that hospitality. The king of Sodom is going to come at him with what's potentially a more lucrative deal, offering him goods, but he's going to say no. One, because he understands the need between something we've probably heard since we were kids, the difference between a need and a want. And Abram understands something that we also would do well to learn in a generation where we can often hear, I got to feed my family, as an excuse to really come up, which is basically to pursue a financial opportunity. It has nothing to do with feeding your family, but it really has everything to do with putting more stacks in the bank or putting more financial security in your account. And so, one, we need to be honest with ourselves. If we are looking at a particular deal and we're looking at it from a feed my family perspective, is that really what we're doing? The second thing is, we've talked about not being able to see beneath the surface. See, this is not the first time Abram's family has had dealings with the king of Sodom. We've already seen how Lot moved his territory there because the land looked good, but he didn't potentially look far enough beneath the surface. That's one danger. Another danger is ignoring the red flags. And we're going to see how Abram specifically sees something in the king of Sodom that he doesn't trust, and it's going to cause him to take a pass on this particular offer. In verses 21 through roughly the end of the chapter, and the king of Sodom said to Abram, give me the persons, but take the goods for yourself. But Abram said to the king of Sodom, I have lifted up my hand to the Lord God Most High, possessor of heaven and earth, that I would not take a thread or a sandal strap or anything that is yours, lest you should say, I have made Abram rich. See, he doesn't trust the spin that this man is going to put on this particular arrangement. And in the Proverbs, we're going to hear something similar in chapter 23 when it reads, when you sit down to eat with a ruler, observe carefully what is before you, and put a knife to your throat if you are given to appetite. Do not desire his delicacies, for they are deceptive food. Verse 6 is going to go on to say, do not eat the bread of a man who is stingy. Do not desire his delicacies, for he is like one who is inwardly calculating. Eat and drink, he says to you, but his heart is not with you. You will vomit up the morsels that you have eaten and waste your pleasant words. This is wisdom is saying, once again, you need to be able to look beneath the surface, but this time in situations where you do not necessarily need God's divine intervention, to simply allow you to open your eyes and do the math on the red flags that you have before you. And so that is a lesson that is so easy for me to say sitting here, but once we start seeing the numbers in a particular deal, or how big an opportunity it might seem like we're presented with, then common sense can get real complicated, and red flags can all of a sudden start looking like they have different shades of colors, when in reality, we simply need to pray to God, not for insight, but the courage to simply do the math with what we already have before us. And that's exactly what Abram's doing here. He is taking the insight that he already has into a man's character and saying, no matter how good the deal is, that's a deal I'm going to pass on, because I can see that there's more that meets the eye in what's going on here. And so may we all have that same, not only wisdom, but courage to take a pass on deals that we just need to walk away from.